walking among you. Your future is a society where the lion sits down with the lamb, where black sit down with white, where there is no rich or poor, no slave, no free. There is no distinction between this person and that person, where we will build our houses, we will plant our crops, and no oppressor will take them from us. Where, for a person to be 100 years old, they would still be considered young, where no one will die in childbirth. You're familiar with all these prophecies of what the world to come will be like? Well, if that is your hope, if that is your destiny, here's your job now. You create foretastes of that world to come. Listen, when you go to the cinema and you see trailers for upcoming films? I don't know, do you try and time it to miss those? Do you try and get there, just what time does the feature actually start so I can get... That's my wife. My wife is like that. It's like I'll be driving to the cinema, it's like, no, honey, come on, we've got to get there for the trailers. It's like, no, just call the cinema and say, what time is the main film? No, it's like, that is wrong. I'm paying some serious money for this movie. I want the previews of what's coming up. I don't want to miss anything good. I don't want to get all the ads for local businesses. I want to miss them, but I want... Now, what is a trailer? A trailer is just all the best bits of a movie which is about to come, is it not? I mean, it's just meant to basically tantalise you to want to see the real thing. So what's in a trailer? All the funniest lines of a comedy are in a trailer. In some trailers, the only funny lines of a comedy. What's a trailer? In an action or adventure, all the most exciting, all the biggest explosions. In a rom-com, all the kind of most romantic moments. I mean, all the best bits are packed into this little tiny trailer, so that when you've seen it, if it's been a really good trailer, you watch, particularly blokes do this, if it's been a really good trailer, blokes will turn to their mates or their girlfriend or wife and they'll say, hey, want to see that? But if it's been a really, really good trailer, you watch blokes turn to their mates or their girlfriend or their wife and say, we are seeing that. Well, you want to know what your fortune is? I'll read it for you right now from Paul. It's very simple. Here's your fortune. Your fortune is to be a trailer of the eternal hope that you have. I'm meant to read your life and say, I want to see that. I'm meant to see people who live life to the full, who enjoy redeemed pleasure, who eat well and invite many to their table. I'm meant to see people who are committed to justice. I'm meant to see people who are committed to peace and non-violence and grace. I'm meant to see your life. This is your fortune, folks. I'm meant to look at your life and say, I want that. Do you remember that old movie, When Harry Met Sally? When she does the fake orgasm in the deli? Am I the first person in this church to use that word in a church service? I was kind of hoping I would be, but I don't know. Like Sally's telling Harry, women fake all the time. No, I think I could tell. And then she demonstrates what a fake orgasm is like, and the lady at the next table, as the waitress comes by, says, look, I'll have what she's having. In a sense, folks, isn't that your fortune? To live such an orgasmic Christian life? To look alive? To be full of justice and peace and goodness and mercy and kindness, and yes, full of the message of the gospel about how you were once dead and now you're alive. Friends, this is your fortune. You were once dead and enslaved. You are now freed because he entered into your world to set you free. And here's your future. You are working collectively and individually to create a foretaste of the kingdom which is to come right under the noses of people in Thornley and Cherrybrook and Pennant Hills or wherever you guys are all from, right under their noses. So what, let me ask you, what do your neighbours and friends know of your eternal hope from what they see in your life? What do they know about heaven from seeing the trailer that is your life? And what do they know collectively of the kingdom of heaven by looking at the life of this church collectively? I happen to believe that people in this neighbourhood are dead. They're enslaved. They're stuck in aspic. They cannot move. That Jesus has waded into that and offered them eternal life. And your job, my friends, is to partner him. Just as the Father sent me, so I send you, says Jesus. You go into those dead, fixed, enslaved lives, and you create a foretaste of what it looks like to be alive in Jesus. And what could this look like? Acts of hospitality, lots of feasts and banquets, lots of commitment to the poor, lots of teaching our neighbours how to be good neighbours. I'll give you a couple of examples. I was in Edmonton, Canada, in a neighbourhood fairly similar to this one. Kind of leafy, middle class, sort of well-to-do-ish kind of neighbourhood. There was a family that lived in this particular neighbourhood who had a son, a young adult son who'd gone off the rails and ended up involved in gangs in the downtown area of Edmonton. He had completely gone crazy and brought his family all sorts of heartache and disappointment. But on one occasion he was involved in kind of criminal activity where members of another gang believed that he had information about them, and they wanted to warn him or remind him that the kind of gang code was that you had to remain silent. So they found out where his family lived and they drove out into the suburbs and they sprayed the whole front of his family home with gunfire as a warning to him to keep his mouth shut. Now, I don't know how that would operate in Thornlea. If someone drove up to some kind of quiet little suburban house nearby and shot the front of the house up. But in Edmonton, Canada, it set the cat among the pigeons. All the mothers and fathers were talking at the school gate. People were talking about the shopping mall. It's like, did you see, did you hear? Ooh, it's all like, ooh, ah. Like something terrible and bad has come into our otherwise perfect middle-class neighbourhood. And then on another occasion, another gang member came back again. A week later, something like that, and fired one shot through the house, through the front window of the house. The boy of the family who joined the gang, his younger sister was watching television in the front room, and the bullet just missed her and embedded in the wall behind her. Now, this was the final straw. What do fine, upstanding, middle-class people who are stuck and dead in their sin do when something like that happens? They agitate to get this family to get the heck out of here. 2 Christian families in that neighbourhood called a public meeting in the church hall to discuss this situation. And the whole neighbourhood turned up because they thought the meeting was about developing strategies for ejecting this family from the neighbourhood. When it was discovered that this family were renters rather than owners of that house, all the more, let's get them out. These 2 families, people who are creating foretastes of the kingdom of heaven, stood up in front of this mob, basically. And they said the reason we called this meeting was for us as a neighbourhood to work on ways and strategies by which we can support this family, love them, keep them in our neighbourhood, protect our children and theirs, and shower blessings on these people in their time of distress. Through their sheer godliness and love and passion, they swayed the whole neighbourhood. They took up a collection that day to buy gifts for this family. They developed like a neighbourhood watch kind of thing and curfews and all that kind of stuff to keep their kids safe. But effectively, they, as the alive ones, as the trailer of the world to come, under the noses of those who've not yet been set free, were showing them what it looks like to be alive, not to be stuck in fear and horror and hatred. Do you follow? What would it look like here? I haven't got a clue. I don't live here. You'll know. You'll know where fear and violence and malice and hatred and being enslaved by passions and pleasures, you'll know what that looks like in this neighbourhood, and you will take off your shoes, roll up your pants, and you will wade into that world. You will wade into that world as trailers or previews of the world which is to come. Another story from Canada is a friend of mine called Nigel Barham, 26 years of age. He and 3 mates moved into a very poor neighbourhood. They're from like a middle-class neighbourhood. They moved into a very poor neighbourhood, mainly comprising Islamic refugees and asylum seekers. They kept their own jobs, they kept their own lifestyles, their own kind of circle of friends and all that. They just did 2 radical things. They moved in to a place of considerable poverty and brokenness. When you think about that, that's just exactly what we're talking about, isn't it? Jesus moving into our world to serve. They moved in. So 4 of them rented a 2-bedroom apartment. They live in like bunk beds in this place. They kept their own jobs. All that's the same. They moved in, and the second thing they did was 1 night a week they pray for their neighbours. That's all they do. Could this work? What they discovered was when you truly move in and you pray, God is already there and opens up all sorts of opportunities. They had been praying for months, not doing anything, not running anything, not playing, just getting to know their neighbours, hosting meals, being sociable, and praying 1 night a week for their neighbourhood. Everything changed one night. 11 o'clock at night, something like that, they're at prayer. They pray well into the early hours of that 1 night a week. I think it was a Tuesday night. There's a knock at the door. It's kind of late for someone to be knocking on the door, so they open the door. There is an older Muslim man, a neighbour of theirs who they know. He says to them, look, I'm sorry to be coming around so late. He says, I've been sound asleep. He said, but I just had a dream. It was kind of something remarkable and weird. So Nigel says, come on in, what was your dream about? He said, I was sound asleep and I had a dream, and in my dream Jesus came to me in the dream. And Jesus was poking me in his finger in my chest and saying to me, what kind of Muslim man do you think you are? There are refugees, single mothers all over this neighbourhood with no friends, no family, no social networks, trying to raise children, terribly alone and in desperate need. You need to do something about this. So get over to Nigel's house right now and ask him what you should do. That man has come to put his trust in Jesus, and with Nigel and his 3 mates, they run play groups for single mothers in that neighbourhood. If you'd have asked Nigel what he was going to end up doing in that neighbourhood, I don't think running play groups for Muslim women was going to be it. But this is what happens, folks, when you move in, when you create foretastes of the world which is to come. So here's my very simple question in closing to you. To whom have you been sent? Where do you need to move in? I mean, you might physically live in this neighbourhood, but among which people must you relationally and emotionally move in? And then what would you do to demonstrate, to fashion trailers of the great blockbuster of heaven which is to come? Because if it's just inviting them to men's dinners and they don't want to come, maybe it should be something else. If it's just inviting them to church and Sunday school and they're not interested, maybe it should be something else. Maybe we need to hold the best dinner parties in town. Maybe we need to clean up the river or the park. Maybe we need to care for the poor. Maybe we need to move in and pray. But here is your fortune. Here is your destiny should you choose to accept it. Move in. Move in and demonstrate what a trailer of the upcoming blockbuster of the kingdom of heaven looks like right here in Thornlea and the neighbourhoods around. Are you with me? It sounds terrible, I know, but the other thing I've discovered about doing it in my own neighbourhood is you just have the best fun. People will break your heart and let you down, and there'll be heartbreak and all that sort of stuff, but hey, eating, drinking, laughing, orgasms, how hard can it be? God bless you.